back. We're going to reconvene this evening at 7:30 p.m. Mr. Jurgensen, can you please lead us in the class? Sure. For the time of others, listen objectively, carefully, considering the opinions of others. Understand the counterproductive effects of disruptive, demeaning, and intimidating behaviors. Understand and respect district policies and procedures, and maintain and respect the rich history of the district and the efforts of others who have served in the past. So we'll start with 5A, public comments. If you'd like to speak to the board, there's some cards for you, and for any agendized or non-agendized items to the superintendent part of the meeting, no more than 3 minutes are allotted for any one speaker, no more than 20 minutes for the same subject. And this portion of the agenda is for comments, recognitions, and reports to the board, and it's not intended to be a question and answer period. If you have questions for the board, please provide the board president with a written copy, and administrator will provide answers at a later date. Dr. Copic, do we have anyone that would like to address the board this evening?
Yes, President Jensen, we have 2 speakers. We can start with Matthew Tebow, and the next speaker will be Tracy Castin.
Good evening, and if you could state your name, and you have 3 minutes.
Matthew Tebow, talking about curriculum. I graduated high school in 1979. In the 70s, we were warned that the Earth was beginning a new global ice age. Increased use of fossil fuels meant that we would run out of crude oil by the year 2000 and millions of people would die. In the 1990s, we were warned of global warming. Use of fossil fuels meant rising sea levels, low-lying cities and farmland would be covered, and millions of people would die. Today, we're taught about global climate crisis. We have 9 years now before it's too late. Millions of people are going to die, and of course, fossil fuels. In today's world, climate change is a very divisive issue. Why is that? Climatologists have been crying climate crisis for over 100 years, but it was never a divisive issue. The reason is that for over a decade now, schools, including ours, have been teaching theories as if they were absolute truths. And that is your fault. You control our curriculum. If you teach children a theory or an ideology without also teaching them the opposing different theories, those children will grow up to believe that that theory is an absolute truth. That is propaganda by definition, and it is scattered throughout our curriculum. Every divisive issue in America today is based on opinions, and our schools, under your leadership, has been teaching one side of those opinions while excluding different opposing ideas and theories. No wonder so many parents choose to leave our school district. If you teach a child a theory, ideology, or opinion, but to fail to teach them in an unbiased manner the opposing theories, then you're not educating, you're indoctrinating. You are using propaganda to brainwash our youth. See, climate change is real, it always has been. Crisis, a theory. Propaganda is powerful. Why do we use the term fossil fuels? It's a theory, based on the theory of evolution. There is a different theory. It's called the creation theory. Why don't we call them creation fuels, an equally valid theory? You have the authority to mandate that anytime a theory or ideology is taught to our kids, the opposing theories are taught as well. In other words, educate, don't indoctrinate. Pride Month, political agenda, they admit it. It has no business in any public school. If you allow it without teaching opposing opinions, then you're indoctrinating. Critical race theory. Oh my gosh, that's coming, it's coming hard. It's a theory. If you teach it, then also teach creation race theory. You know, the theory that says there's one human race and skin color is nothing more than one of the variables that makes us unique. If you don't teach the opposing theory, then you are the brainwasher. You have both the authority and the obligation to make sure our kids are taught both sides. There are many more theories that are taught in our schools without teaching the opposing side. It's wrong. And you guys can stop it. You have the authority. Thank you.
Hello, I am Ms. Alford, and I am a teacher at High Desert School. I've been teaching there for 15 years, and I've taught many of your children. Tonight I'm here to speak on behalf of the High Desert teachers, and it is the staff that I'm speaking for. I really want to set the record straight and talk about block scheduling. So the block scheduling is something that I'm urging our board to push forward at High Desert. Last year we were asked as a group of educators how we could help students. What was the best way we thought we could help support them with learning loss? And with learning loss, we said, well, we need to, something good came out of distance learning, which was these long block schedules where we have more time with the students, where we can dig deeper into subject matter, and we can give individualized attention as well as have resource teachers there to support them. And it was not decisions made by a small group of parents. That's where I want to set the record straight. These decisions are coming from your educators, the people that are working with the students, that know the students, that are professionals, and that are there wanting to do what's right for the students. So I'm concerned that we are having impacted classes. We are now at a staff that is cut in half. All teachers are teaching 7th and 8th grade, not just the 8th grade or the 7th grade students. We also have impacted classes. I have 38 kids in my class. I have room for 32 in the lab. I'm a science teacher. You have spent tens of thousands of dollars on this wonderful new program, the CTE program, that I am so excited to be able to teach. And I went into it thinking that I was going to have about an hour and 30 minutes with the kids. It's 17 separate units that they're going to be able to go and dig into and be able to use band saws and drills and robotics and forensics. And guess what? By the time they get in there, they're going to have about 30 minutes. They're going to get the materials out, and there's not going to be time for them to be able to do what they need to do with the program. I want them to experience this. This is something that we are so excited about for our kids. And so I want you to really reconsider the block schedule. It's what's best for our kids right now. And so I'm not sure why we would wait until second semester. And you can see I'm passionate because you know that I don't talk unless there's something I'm fired up about, and I'm fired up about this because I want what's best for our kids. I want those kids to be able to have the time with the teachers, to be able to not just meet their academic needs, but meet their social emotional needs as well. And we can't do that with 38 kids in a classroom that are learning how to do school again, that are just starting out to, our 7th graders especially. They haven't really been done school since 5th grade. They have an elementary mindset. And so we're trying to get them to where they are able to function in the classroom, also be able to make up for learning loss. So I would like you to please think about the kids. We say we put kids first. Let's do it. Okay? And if you want to know more about why I
So we are in 5G Golden Spotlight.
Thank you, President Jensen. This evening, we are so excited to kick off a Golden Spotlight at each and every board meeting moving forward, but starting tonight. It is our intent to spotlight and showcase our students, our staff, and community stakeholders. Tonight, we will be kicking this spotlight off with a group of students from Vasquez High School. Thank you to Mr. Brockway and Councilor Salcedo for your support in supporting this for this evening. Advanced placement courses give students the chance to tackle college level work while they're still in high school, whether they're learning online or in the classroom. And through taking AP exams, students can earn college credit and placement. In addition, there is an AP Scholar designation that we want to share in which acknowledges students that the College Board has deemed as demonstrating outstanding college level achievement through their performance on the AP exams. The students that have received the AP Scholar Award are Kemp Fairbanks, Camila Galvez, and Emily Sandoval Pluth. And if you're here, please come on up, and I'm going to read additional names of students last spring that took the AP exam at Vasquez High School. With distance learning and a multitude of challenges last school year, Here are all of the students that took AP exams last spring. Kudos to each and every one of you for your dedication and commitment to your studies. Again, if you're here with us in person, please come on up. And there are two here. I know we have Nick Castan and Amanda Ames. We'd love to have the board take a picture with our wonderful students. Yes, round of applause. Before we have them move up, I'd love to read a list of students who might be watching us virtually. Some students have moved on as they were seniors last year, but I'd like to recognize them this evening under our spotlight. Amanda Ames, Ryan Arnold, Annabelle Becker, Nick Castan, Kevin Fairbanks, Braden Flores, Adam Frank, Camila Galvez, Diego Galvez, Ashley Hinkle, Maya Hurtado, William Kendall, Chloe Main, Keiko Martini, Mackenzie Noland, Abigail Perez, Vanessa Plaza, Haley Rudd, Emily Sandoval-Kloof, Jacob Van Ornum, Brody Villasenor, Ava Wyganowska. So congratulations to each and every one of them. And at this time, we would love to have, once again, Nick and Amanda come up with our board. If you could oblige us, please. And we will go ahead and provide your certificates and a picture. Thank you.
All right.
Congratulations, Amanda. Congratulations, Nick. You make us proud. And we're proud of you, Nick.
I don't have Mr. Falsgrove. All right.
Congratulations before you leave, Amanda.
Good evening, it's good to see you guys.
Well, we'll turn it over to you, Mr. Sparks.
Thank you. A couple things. First, the year's kind of gotten off to a little bit of a rocky start. COVID is definitely an issue. So we want to make sure that we are just highlighting that and taking the right precautions and being mindful of that. We sunshined the board 3.5 weeks ago. You discussed it 2 weeks ago in your last board meeting. We haven't returned, we haven't gotten a message back. So I was just wondering where we stood with sunshining and bargaining. We have a change in staff, right? Vasquez has, we're losing another principal. This will be the 5th principal in 6 years if you count Miss Barnes. Starting to see a pattern there. I'm starting to wonder why. I know this is out of our control. This principal is leaving. However, it does seem kind of odd that there's such a high turnover rate at that school. Just kind of wondering if there's something there. Some of our concerns with Mr. Brock, staff who go out on campus during breaks, I'm wondering if that is really the most effective way to monitor 350 kids on a campus that is about 4 acres. I don't know if there's enough supervision there. With Mr. Brockway being gone, what's Monday going to look like? We haven't had any conversations, any communication about when we show up on Monday and we have a kid who we have to throw out of class or have to discipline or have to deal with. Who do we send them to? Are we going to send them to Sue? We don't have even the staff that we used to have. We have one secretary now. Tiffany Kazeda. We have ESSER funds, and those ESSER funds can be spent on certain items, and supervision is one of them. And so I'm wondering if we're making the necessary adjustments. And when are we going to communicate this? You know, that's one of the biggest frustrations is that, you know, we have a staff. If you look at who's on the call tonight, a lot of Vasquez teachers are on that call tonight because they're anxious. They're worried. Some of you came and talked to you. Had a conversation about supervision and security, and they shared their concerns, and I appreciate you taking the time to hear them. But I'm wondering, you know, Was there communication afterwards? You know, we don't know where we're at. When there's a lack of leadership, people start to talk. And so we have a lot of nervous teachers out there, and I think it just stems from a little bit of just communication. And so I hope that we can improve that. For us too, you know, we want to make sure that we're communicating both ways. It's not just one-sided. We appreciate everything that you guys do. I know this job is hard. Never been here. First time I'm speaking in front of you. You know, appreciate everything that you're doing. And know that in your heart, you're here for the community, trying to help the community. We say things like, it's about the kids. We say things like, we're here for children. A lot of times adults can talk. Sometimes they don't act. And so what I'm asking is, we need to see actions. Okay, we have serious problems in this district. We're bleeding ADA. We identified the problem for the last 5 years, last 6 years. And so what are we communicating? If you look at iLead has a brand. iLead says, I'm project-based. What is Vasquez known for? What is High Desert known for? What is our branding? What is our shtick? I know when I come and I see here, we have beautiful pictures and there's branding all over the place. But when you go on campus, heck, I had to raise money to decorate the gym. I didn't even get a red cent from the board. And so you can say that we're here to protect kids, and I do believe that's your whole intention. But actions speak a whole lot louder than words. And right now, sometimes with your inaction and lack of communication, minds start to wander, and people start to talk. And so I appreciate everything you guys do. I'm not criticizing you. Again, you have a very difficult job. Appreciate everything you do, sir. You have given a lot of time, energy, and effort. And I just want you to know that. You too, all of you have. Thank you for your service to this community. You don't, you work in another district, and you still come here on your nights, and you're leading this group. Thank you. Appreciate that. But what I'm asking for is communication and direction. We need vision. Okay, if you want to get something done and do it well, hire good people, cast the vision. What do you want to get accomplished? What do you want to see from this district? I hear a lot of, you know, we need to do this, we need to do that, but it's muddled. It's not clear. It's not concise. It's not packaged well. And so we get out there and we're trying to do this and we're trying to do that, but there's no clear vision. There's not, okay, this is where we want to go, and hire good people and then get out of the way. Because I feel a lot of times this board likes to micromanage. They want to know everything about certain topics, not about things that are just general across the board. You want to know about certain things that interest you and pique your interest. Okay, I'm wondering, are you micromanaging ASB? Are you micromanaging ASB at High Desert? Are you micromanaging High Desert athletics? There are lots of big problems that we need to solve. And I think sometimes we get lost in the day-to-day inner workings of the trenches. Your vision is not to work in the trenches. Your vision is to cast that vision. What do you want to see accomplished, sir? We have good people who are looking for leadership. Okay, we keep losing good people. We keep losing good principals, and it creates a vacuum. It makes our job difficult. And so I hope today that you hear my heart. I am not criticizing. I'm speaking on behalf of Aadusd, saying we have some issues here. And I hope that we have plans in place to address those issues. And I hope that we can communicate that a little bit more effectively than what we have in the past. Thank you very much, and have a good evening, guys.
Do we have Mr. Ortiz? And we'll go ahead with the gold standard report.
Thank you, President Jensen. I'll start off my report with a quick update on MTSS PBIS. This is standard number 1. On the MTSS multi-tier systems of support, PBIS positive behavior and intervention support initiatives. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Ms. Kim Shaw, Assistant Superintendent at Services, for attending a 2-hour PBIS workshop last week, sponsored by LACO, and thank you, LACO. In addition, today, our district leadership and school site MTSS teams specifically participated in the LACO facilitated MTSS training. We're looking forward to a series of workshops to help plan and support the MTSS initiative at each of our school sites moving forward. As participants at the series of workshops scheduled for the rest of the school year, we'll gain an overview of the MTSS framework and how to leverage tiered academic, behavioral, and social emotional supports for all of our students, including some sample strategies to help accelerate student learning. We will learn how to align teams in building a single coherent system within our schools and not fragmented. We will also receive information on how to build school and district team capacity for the implementation of MTSS. So thank you Meadowlark, High Desert, Vasquez, MTSS teams for your participation this afternoon with the first workshop. Again, thank you. Effective instruction and leadership 2.0. I'd like to thank our school site staff, teachers, and administrators for your creative implementation of back to school nights last week and yesterday evening at Vasquez, with Vasquez High School. What you see here under 2.0 are some snapshots, screenshots of the creative and interactive presentations from each and every one of our school sites. Kudos to the administrators and teachers for thinking outside of the box and making sure that all parents are welcome with the information that they need to get their students off to a good start for the school year. So thank you for that. Vasquez High School principal, we wish you well, Mr. Brockway, moving forward. And best wishes to you at Eastside Union. Making sure that we are hearing from all of our stakeholders. Our cabinet pushed out, so thank you Mr. Mirza and Ms. Shah and IT for pushing out a Vasquez High School Principal Stakeholder Input Survey. That survey went live yesterday and it is the cutoff date for submissions from any one of our community members, be it Meadowlark, High Desert, Vasquez of course. The cutoff is tomorrow, the 10th at 4 p.m. Some of the stakeholder sample questions that we're looking to assess, for instance, what do you want to see in your next principal at Vasquez? What do you think will be the greatest challenge for the next principal? What experience do you think the new principal should have? So again, we're kindly requesting for all submissions by tomorrow, the 10th at 4 p.m. We want to make sure that all voices are heard. We are looking to move forward with an interim principal for Vasquez High School starting the 13th of September, while we post and recruit for a Vasquez High School replacement principal. That takes time, but we want to be very diligent and mindful and make sure that we receive qualified candidates based on the characteristics of the survey and making sure that we put the right person for Vasquez High School, as Vasquez High School deserves the right person at the leadership role. 3.0 community engagement. As you saw this evening, we're excited to launch the Golden Spotlight. It will be a bi-monthly recognition of our students and their achievements, staff and their accomplishments, because we do have stellar staff, both teachers and classified, as well as community partners being recognized for their support of our district. In recognition of some of our community engagement, I would like to verbally spotlight two groups, and you see some pictures there. So thank you, Alex and Caesar from IT. The Sisters League of Antelope Valley is a partnership that was established by our previous counselor at Vasquez, Mrs. Larson. Each year, the Sisters League provides backpacks with school supplies to campuses for students in need. They also hold a target night for our students to purchase their backpacks of school clothes, shoes, and supplies. Last Friday, Counselor Mrs. Salcedo and Principal Mr. Brockway dropped off backpacks and supplies to all 3 school sites. Again, thank you, Sisters League, for your continued support of our students and our community. In addition, in mid-August, we had the Salvation Army of Lancaster provide a generous donation of 30 backpacks with school supplies for students in need. We appreciate this new partnership with the district and look forward to many more years of collaboration. I'd like to especially thank Ms. Chelsea Humphrey from the Salvation Army of Lancaster. Really really nice backpacks. Thank you for that. In terms of community engagement, I'm currently working on a formal marketing branding proposal for our district as part of my onboarding plan. No need to look at this, it doesn't coincide. As you can see, Alex, if you could go back to, yes, thank you. Appreciate that, Alex. As you can see projected up on the screen, there are several key components to this plan. A formal presentation will be made sooner than later to the community as well as to the board. Some of these key components include district website, showcasing staff, teachers, while highlighting their degrees and certificates our teachers have earned and possess. Plus, easy navigation of our district website will be looked into. If we're looking to attract families to our district, the lens we should have for our website content should not only be for our existing families, but to potential families within our neighborhoods and outside of our neighborhoods. Branding. Interested in highlighting what makes our district special and unique. We have no reason to compete with large urban districts, as our district has plenty to offer that large districts cannot. With that lens, I'm moving towards highlighting the quality, not quantity theme with our branding of our school district. In addition, emphasis on customer service. Paying special attention to how we enroll new families to our school sites, and our positive messaging must be deliberate. And as administrators, including myself, it does start with us. We must model the expected behaviors. Ultimately, it is good customer service that keeps parents with the school district. In addition, school tours and shadow days you can see listed there as the content. Having a link on our homepage to schedule tours that will be coordinated and consistent in content. So making navigation for potential families easier through our website to schedule a tour, be it at Meadowlark, High Desert, or Vasquez. Shadow days will be scheduled for our younger students at Meadowlark and High Desert to shadow high school students, be it shadowing Vasquez students in their classrooms, at athletic competitions, or even extracurricular clubs and activities. I hope to offer this invitation to not only to our Meadowlark and High Desert families, but to have it open to the public as well, of course when health and safety protocols allow for this. In addition, looking to produce video testimonials, we have excellent teachers, students, and parents. As part of a marketing campaign, I'd like to produce a day in the life of a teacher, a day in the life of a district student, a day in the life of a community partner. And having these video testimonials be really accessible on our website as part of our marketing and our branding. The testimonial will provide a peek into all the amazing teaching and learning and extracurricular activities taking place right now on our campuses. I'm also looking into testimonials that will also include recent graduates from our district. It is my intent to also simplify registration on our website. We already have an enrollment link there, but to make it a little bit more prominent on our homepage. Annual school climate surveys to help us gauge how are we doing. How are we really supporting our customer base, our students, parents, and staff. Annual climate surveys assessing student, staff, and parent perceptions on topics related to instruction, campus safety, customer service, and others will lend to support the heightening customer service within the community we serve. Data from the annual surveys will also allow us to gauge whether we are improving or not. I'm all for continuous improvement, as continuous improvement is never ending. Lastly, social media concentrated marketing. Targeted social media advertisement, what some call geo-targeted advertisement. For instance, Facebook groups geared to new parents and parenting groups receiving information and updates on some of the signature programs of our district will be a geo-targeted advertisement campaign. Ultimately, we'd like to have student participation with the branding, by incorporating a poster contest for each respective school site, which embodies the branding theme of what we collectively agree upon moving forward. So more information to come. Item number 4, student safety and connectedness. So you see here a draft flyer for a Superintendent Advisory Council, STAR, fun acronym, Students Together for Action and Results. The purpose of this forthcoming Superintendent Student Advisory STAR is to create and implement goals through student input into areas that impact student performance, safety, security, mental health, and other areas of concern. 2021-22 meeting dates will still be determined based on student availability and needs, and ultimately I'll have a link there for students interested to apply so that we could go ahead and collect a pool of students at our school sites. The Superintendent Student Advisory Council, STAR, will be our district's very own coalition of high school students and middle school students with a branching out to our elementary school site ultimately. The advisory aims to develop initiatives, amplify student voices to create positive change at our schools. Now, I'm reaching out to our secondary students. If you're a current high school student or middle school student in our district and are passionate about school change and district initiatives, look out for this flyer that will be posted on our website coming soon. So I'm very excited about that. 5.0, utilization of fiscal capital. I'd like to commend the LCAP work groups providing input to how to provide the LCAP plan moving forward for our district and how to expend the dollars to support our students within the LCAP plan. We received approval from LACO recently, so kudos and congratulations to the district for an approval for the LCAP plan. So the Local Control and Accountability Plan, LCAP for short, has been approved. The LACO Review and Oversight Committee determined that our district's LCAP plan meets all 3 criteria and has been formally approved. The 3 criteria for LCAP include adherence to the State Board of Education, SBE for short, sufficient expenditures in budget to implement the LCAP, and adherence to SBE expenditure regulations. One area of concern that was brought up in the letter of approval had to do with our district's declining enrollment and its impact on funding. With that said, this evening we have a formal presentation under the business section from Davis Demographics that will be able to provide our district with a formal demographic study based on student projections and even residential forecasts to better equip us with our planning for outcome years. That is my superintendent report, please.
Okay, so next we have submissions.
One submission from SIE Tech, a formal correspondence for location change.
Okay,
They are not here. But I do believe we have, yes. So we have Ms. Patterson that might be with us through Zoom. Ms. Patterson?
Yes, we have Dr. Derek Rice, who is representing SciTech, and he is here to do a formal submission of the material revision for a location change for SciTech.
Excuse me, point of order.
Yes, hello.
Excuse me, point of order before we get rolling here. It's my understanding that there would be a submission, and then at the next board meeting, there would be a presentation of that submission. Is that not our standard operation?
Yes, that is correct.
So I'm not understanding that there's going to be a presentation of what the context of the petition is this evening. Is that what's going to happen? Do I need to recess from the board while that's happening so I can vote no next time?
well, I think you could give everybody an opportunity to have a discussion. So are we going to wait for the presentation, Shay, or what are we doing? They're just submitting.
They're just submitting.
So I guess, should I move to recognize the submission?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you.
Do we have a second? It's not an action now, correct? Because it's a submission.
Just an acceptance.
Just an acceptance, it's not an action item. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful.
This is tough, so we're good to go.
Ms. Patterson, any comments before we move forward?
There are no comments, it's just merely a submission.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, board comments. Mr. Fallsgrove.
I think we have another point of order, Brianna.
Sorry.
Sorry, Brianna, I can't see you down there.
6E, the COVID reports, did we skip 6E?
Oh, we did, sorry. We did, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to provide an update to the community, up-to-date COVID report, data pulled from, of course, LA County Department of Public Health. The number of new cases as reported to LA County Department of Public Health for September 6th is 1,540 new cases. We have seen a decrease in new cases since my last update, where we had seen 3,322 new cases, again, as reported by LA County Department of Public Health back on August 25th. As of September 6th, again, the total of 1,540 new cases reported in comparison to 3,322 reported back on August 25th. The testing positivity rate, a 7-day average for the week of August 30th, came in at 1.98%, a drop from 3.08% since the week of August 18th. Again, data received from LA County Department of Public Health. The percentage of individuals tested with a diagnostic COVID test since the week of August 30th comes out to 147,130 individuals. That is an increase of 22,000 individuals receiving a COVID test since August 18th. We are receiving up-to-date information on COVID cases in our schools. I'd like to thank our site administrators, district office staff, Nurse Carrie Wright, for their timely communication of such incidents to the school community at large, parents that are impacted. We are not alone in this challenge, as our neighboring districts near and far have seen an uptick in student cases. I'd like to reiterate the importance of self-check at home prior to students arriving on campus. Please look for symptoms such as cough, fever, and shortness of breath. If you believe your child may be experiencing any one of these symptoms or collectively these symptoms, please contact your school site for additional guidance or your primary care physician. Thank you. That is my report.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Fallsgrove, 7.
Thank you. Point of public clarification, the letter of certification from LACO is a matter of public record. So if you're interested in what that says and need some time to digest it, as to what LACO, the financial division, is telling us about what's long-term and what ADA drop-off means and what that looks like. Read through it, understand it. Remember, this is the same organization that accepted charter revenue coming in for 5 years as a false economic support. They recognize that as part of our budget too, so take that for what it's worth. I want to say this. I do have focuses. The reason I'm on this board is because I have focuses. The internet will tell you that I have 30 years of experience, career experience with top-end brands. Brands that don't need to take out loans to run every day, that don't have gaps in customer service, that aren't being sued by everybody, that don't create false economic situations and put employees at risk. That's why I'm here. They don't have audit findings. And in my time here, then things are dropping off the map. I'm not here to tell teachers how to teach or students how to learn. I'm inept at both, but I am here for organizational structure, and you're finding out that as time passes, there's less and less of a need for my skills. So when I'm not on the board anymore, I'll go home, and then when I see things aren't right, I'll be back out in the audience, because I was very effective out there, and I know what I'm looking at. Now, that said, I will tell you this. The COVID numbers concern me. I sit in a staff meeting 3 times a week, and they tell me what the county says. Do you remember when the county was telling us, oh, it's huge, it's bad, it's all that, and we're over here going, I don't know anybody that has it. Does anybody remember that? Well, what's happening now? Now it looks like it's blowing up in our little town. And it is. But it's happening everywhere, just a small little unit. What concerns me most is grandiose plans. I think we did pretty good hiring a superintendent, because he's trying to tell you what's going to happen. And if he doesn't produce those things for you in the plan, it's up there. You come back in here and hold me accountable for that, because I hired him along with these other people. But here's what I will tell you. We have teachers and we have students that depend on the healthy classrooms to come to. And our facility staff has been working for 1.5 years to make sure that those rooms are safe. So the COVID bombs are not coming from inside of our classrooms, they're coming from outside. Whatever you do, this is a perfect example. No one is playing mask police. I have no idea what any of you feel about wearing a mask or not. But each of you is respectful enough to walk in that door and understand that the district policy is while you are inside of a school building, you will wear a mask, and when you go outside, it's not necessary. So I'm proud that we're all doing that here, but please remind everyone that's around you, don't go onto our campuses if you don't feel well. I can't monitor what you're doing on the weekends, but if you feel that you've been around something, you're not feeling right, please don't go to our campuses. There's no shame in calling in sick. I cannot have brand advancement if I don't have teachers in the classroom, if half my kids are out, and I got the County Office of Education or health breathing down my neck trying to make an example out of this little district so they can go off and do whatever they were doing before. There's nothing that we haven't dealt with. Now I'm going to unload some personal issues. Get ready, is there a psychiatrist in the room? Nothing bothers me more than this is personal life and work life. I had people who were very active preaching me what they wanted to know about what they feel about this and what they feel about that. And they were obstinate about it to the point where I work in a very progressive work environment where people aren't aggressive. I'm the most aggressive one. I don't know how I have my work career, my personality is a problem. But at the end of the day, when I get shocked how people are acting, it is a huge problem. But mysteriously enough, these same people who were militant about pushing their issues on other people and refusing to be responsible, and in fact blowing themselves up all over social media. Here's my picture doing what some of those same people are laying in a hospital today asking for the rest of us employees to add to their depleted sick leave. COVID is a great equalizer for people who don't know how to just take your issues, keep them to yourself, and respect the beliefs of others. All I care about is if there's kids in those classrooms tomorrow. I don't want to hear about teachers being sick and not be able to function, and innocent kids being sent home for 10 days and having their parents ask me, why is my child being robbed of an education? That's this world behind the scenes, and I'm happy to do it. But like I said, things are moving ahead fairly quickly. The day will come, I'll go away, you can give me my cupcake and that'll be it. Brianna.
Always a hard act to follow.
Just put some reality out there, it's easy.
I would like to start with thanking our students that were able to be here and congratulating them and the ones that weren't. That is an enormous feat. So great job, congratulations again. And some of those kids, most of those kids, they're familiar names. They're high achievers throughout their entire school year, and now I know some of them are off doing absolutely amazing things, and I'm super excited to see where they go from here, as well as some of our other graduates. We have amazing kids that graduate from Vasquez and go on to do fantastic things, and kudos to them and kudos to the teachers, the support staff, everybody that helped get them there. I want to also congratulate Ms. Chun. She is a semi-finalist for County Teacher of the Year. So Ms. Chun, that is awesome. There's nobody more deserving. Good luck. Bring that title home. You are awesome and great job. I also want to take a minute. There's always people that go above and beyond, and I don't think that everybody quite gets the recognition that they deserve all the time. And there's 3 people in our district that I know have been working tirelessly. That's our IT department, Caesar, holy moly, Caesar Ortiz and Alex Heradosia. To be in IT in this day and age where you're just thrown all of this stuff and you have to have it in order for kids to learn, and you have to be on top of your game, and in order for board meetings to happen, and all that distance learning, and that didn't stop. Our kids are still working on all of their Chromebooks. They're still needing IT more than ever, even though we are back in the classroom. So huge thank you, and your services do not go unnoticed. You guys are amazing. I also want to send a shout out to Nurse Carrie. Holy moly, that woman is so overworked these days, dealing with every single COVID case. There's so much behind the scenes for Nurse Carrie, and she's great at her job. She's thorough, she's fantastic, so way to go, Nurse Carrie, and I know you're working hard, and I hope you can take a nice long vacation at some point, but it's not anytime soon, so thank you, thank you. Mr. Brockway, we're sorry to see you go. That's when you first came. We all had high hopes that you would be the long haul and here for good, and that first football game with Mr. Sparks that you were at, you showed us that you were the right man for the job, and you know what I'm talking about. We're sorry to see you go, but I know that you're going to do amazing things for your next adventure. So congratulations on your new job. Mr. Tebow, Ms. Costin, Ms. Alford, thank you for your comments. It's not always easy to stand up in front of people. You're not only in front of us, you're in front of everybody on online. So thank you, and we hear you. And I don't know what else to say other than that, but thank you very much for having the courage to stand up in a board meeting. I know that's not easy. And Mr. Sparks, I want you to know that I applaud you. As always, I've always applauded you. You are fantastic. I do share your goals. I do hear you, and I share your goals. Before I was a board member, communication was a huge issue for me. Sitting out there in the audience, as an employee, as a parent, as a union representative, and that it is incredibly frustrating when you don't feel heard, or when you reach out and you don't get that communication back. Open communication is huge. So I thank you for sharing that. I thank you for bringing it to the table. It is a goal that I hope we can, as a district, as a board, as a district, work on. So thank you for bringing that. And you're absolutely right. It is all about the kids. That's why we're here. It is all about the kids. And that's all that I have.
You gotta try being the guy following up after the two of you. That's where it really
Give us some reality, dude.
So, I'll give you some reality. First of all, Ms. Alford, thank you for your comments. I agree with you. The block scheduling sounds great. I think there's some lessons to be learned from distance learning. I think there's a lot of things that good came from it, some not so good. I hope that those ideas can come forward and we can implement them when the time is right. I'm just gonna jump. The kids, they've got the awards today. Good job. That's awesome to see you guys doing so well. I wish we could have heard from more of them. But I know a lot of those names have gone off to college and just are not available. So it's great to see Nick Costin in here, and I'm sorry, the young lady, missed her name. Mr. Sparks, I hear where you're coming from 100%. Your criticisms, constructive criticisms, are totally welcome. If we're not getting criticized, that means we're probably not doing enough. Or maybe we're doing too much, I don't know. But what I can tell you is we've been in class, what, 3.5 weeks? We've had a superintendent that came to us 2 months ago. We had a previous superintendent that I feel maybe had his thumb on the backs of people's heads and didn't allow them to do their jobs the way they could. They weren't allowed to be free thinkers or show their shining star. I hung my hat on Eric when it came time to hire him. I see a lot of good in him. But I think it's going to take some time. This stuff is not going to happen overnight. All of your questions about safety, if there's a safety issue, let's hear them. Let's get it out there so that we can address it. Why is there a high turnover rate at Vasquez? I'd love to know that too. It's the whole reason why I'm even on this board. It's one of the main reasons why I ran. Mr. Brockway's personal reasons for going away, that's his personal reasons. You can't keep somebody somewhere when they have their own agenda. He has that right. I would love to see the next person come in here and spend the next 10 years, as I hope the superintendent spends the next 10 years here. I want longevity for our district. I want our teachers to have the best environment possible. I want our teachers to be here for the next 10 or 20 years. Some of the teachers that have been in this district went to elementary school with them. My wife went to elementary school with them. There's a lot of good in this town, but it's not going to happen overnight. We have new leadership, we have new board members. Some of us have been here, some of us haven't been here. What I can tell you is from my own experience with my phone blowing up from the day I decided to get into this race, is that there's a lot of expectations out there and a lot of misnomers of what the previous board or the previous superintendent was or wasn't. I can tell you from sitting up here since I've been elected, I have yet to find anything out of the ordinary. I have found 3 people that they come here week after week after week and put their heart and soul into trying to make this the best possible district. Brianna, I have had a lot of conversations with her before she got on the board. Her heart is in the same spot. Nobody has a secret agenda here other than to make our school the best possible school it can be. So whatever outside influences are coming in, and whatever somebody's saying over here, the fact of the matter is that we're all on the same page and we're all trying to go forward. We're trying to make it better. We want our branding to be better. We've all talked about branding. We've all talked about communication. We've talked about communication at night. Maybe there needs to be more of it. It's a work in progress. So I understand your frustration. I can see it. I can hear it in your voice when you're up here. I heard it in your voice 2 weeks ago when you spoke. It's urgent for you. I respect that. I understand it. But it's a work in progress. He's getting his feet grounded. We're pushing on him our agenda and what we want. And ultimately, we're looking at him to grow the school the way he has his vision for it. It's not our job to sit here and tell Mr. Superintendent, this is what you need to do, that's what you need to do. That's what we hired him for. His vision. But it's going to take some time. So all I'm asking is try to be patient and have a little understanding. And if you're not getting enough communication, or if you feel there's a safety issue, if we feel that classes need more time, this stuff needs to be talked about. It needs to be brought up so that we can fine tune it. If we can do a better learning environment by keeping kids in class, a half hour longer, then let's talk about it and make sure it works for everyone, not just a select few people. Because we're here for everybody at the end of the day. We're not here for a handful of kids here, a handful of kids here. I want it equal for everybody. So, I want you to know I hear you. And I hear all of you guys, and I want nothing more than for this school to be the best possible school there is in the Antelope Valley, and Santa Cruz Valley for that matter. It's just going to take a few more minutes to allow Mr. Eric over here to get it ramped up and going, get his brand going, and get his message out there. That's all I have.
Okay, now you follow that treaty. Well, first I want to address the superintendent, because the AP students and their successes. Choosing to take the AP test and then scoring 3, 4, 5 is an exceptional effort in a normal circumstance, let alone distance learning. That they had to have the discipline, and they couldn't do it by themselves. They did it because we had quality teachers that were guiding them, providing the opportunity, and I'm proud to be a former member of the teacher staff. And I know the colleagues, or my former colleagues over there, that they were working hard and difficult hours to make sure that their students got the content they needed on the timing that they needed, because that AP testing is set by not us, that's set by somebody else. And we have to bend and flex to make sure, along with all the other districts. So we're not exceptional in that regard. We still have to do it. But as a small school district, I'm exceptionally proud of the number of students that chose to take it, that passed and got scored. That can never be, that is a huge success. I talk it all the time. I have nephews that are in administration in big districts up there, and they don't have near the success that we have of students doing what our students do. And I'm really proud of our teachers, the hard work that they put in, and I'm exceptionally proud of the hard work that the students put in to do it, and the patience of the parents to say, put that book away or whatever. I don't know. It just can't go unsaid that the pride that I have in the students for doing with their success that they did over this last year and a half. It's been a huge challenge for everybody. We are the least impacted. The staff and the students and the parents and our families are the ones that are impacted. We're trying to sit here and work and give opportunities and create things to make sure that we can stay going, but it's challenging because that chair over there, from our former superintendent and now Dr. Sahakian, gets memos every day, said, okay, you got to change this, you got to change that, you got to change this. This is no, can't do that anymore. You got this new, it's something every other day, every other week. We charge him to do that, and that's why, along with Chad, I'm exceptionally proud of Mr. Sahakian coming in here, getting his work done, because I can assure you, we're looking at him and we're saying, well, who's going to do that? And we're looking at him. He's going to do it, because that's his job. And we're expecting, and we have high expectations, and we know that you'll succeed at that. So, when I hear all the questions about, when you were talking, Mr. Sparks, about ADA, because I represented ADA for 3 years, and I understand the staffing and the challenges that we have. And we're working diligently to overcome those. As a small school district, we've often thought, well, we're small and we're adaptable and we can move quicker than the big districts. Well, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes we just can't get people here to come here. And we have to work hard to recruit those people and get them to stay. And that goes back to the branding that the first thing that we talked with Dr. Sahakian about was branding. President Jensen mentioned, we need to let people know when they're driving down the 414 freeway, this is a dang good school. You need to look at bringing your kids here instead of driving them all over the place. And so branding was on the top of the ticket, saying you need to get busy and figure it out. I don't care about all the fancy stuff in this building because nobody sees it. I want to see it out there on the campus, and when people drive by, what is that building? I remember when I was hired, I drove right by Vasquez because I didn't even realize it was a high school. I thought it was some kind of detention center. It was all temporary buildings. And I went to High Desert for my interview, and they said, oh no, you need to go to the high school. And I said, well, where's that? They said, that one right over there. And I came back there. Of course, I'm all humble. I walked into a temporary building, and I found exceptional people working very hard to give great opportunities for students. And it's been that way since 2009, well, it's been like 1997 when it was at High Desert, and it's continued at the high school forever. We moved to a new campus, we've got new high technology campuses. So enough can't be said about the hard work that you do at High Desert and then what happens at Vasquez, and it works and it's having success. We were talking today about our ambassadors. Who are our district ambassadors? There are alumni. There are alumni that are doctors, law enforcement, they're district attorneys, they're nurses, they're pediatricians. We've got them out there, and we want to tap them and say, hey, help us out, you're an alumni. They're local business owners, they run properties, they do all these things. Those are things that we need to do, and they're going to be new to Dr. Sahakian, but that's where we get to share that concept with them. From our staff at High Desert, from Metallark, from Vasquez, all of these people coming together, because we're doing a lot of moving around, but there's still that core that's still there. This, Albert, you've been there 15 years, you came only a couple of years after I did, and I can remember all the hard work you were doing. So when it comes to block scheduling, I love block scheduling. But I think it's like what Chad says, I think it's something that it's not just for one site, it's a global thing. Because block scheduling to me at the middle school needs to transition to the high school, because they're going to be going back and forth, back and forth. I don't know. But it has been something we've talked about. So it's in the works. It's like, it's not something we can just say, okay, let's just switch. Parents are going to hold on, kids are going to hold on, some staff are going to hold on. So we know that we're making transition to new incentives to have High Desert, that we hope we're going to transition to Vasquez with our careers opportunities and stuff. Those are all things that's going to take a couple of semesters, maybe a year or two. But please don't give up. Know that Dr. Sahakian is working on it. This board, we've all talked about it. We stressed with that we need to make sure we stay on top of this. We have background in Mrs. Shaw and Dr. Mersa that are working very hard on the background to make sure that we are in a position so that we can respond to these when the time comes. So don't have no doubt that we're not hearing you, and I appreciate you coming in. I know how hard it is to sit here and talk. When it comes to like the branding, one of our principal branding to me, and I'm a little selfish, this is at Vasquez. It's the last opportunity that we have to make an imprint on our students before they go out into the community, before they become business persons, becoming members of our community. We started with them in Metallark, we moved and transitioned to High Desert, and now our last opportunity is the final branding. We've had a lot of transition at Vasquez. We went from trailer trash high to a very high-tech campus. And we had people, oh, there's that. And even myself in 2000, I thought it was a detention center just from the visuals, because I didn't know anything about it. So we've worked hard. There's been staff, and there's been students and alumni and community members and business owners and parents that have come together to make that campus a viable, very well, it's just a great high school. It's a small school that, like Ms. Jensen, President Jensen says, that we need to let people know about in somewhere. So we're working on that. All of these things that come together are things that the bowl is full, but it's not overflowing. But we never really see it go down because we're always thinking that we've got to do this. As we work through this year and a half of this pandemic, and we try to get our kids back in, and masking is a big thing for me. I've been in the medical business and emergency response business. I understand when they say hospitals are full. I don't want anybody in our community to experience it. I don't want any of our students to miss class time because somebody is not going to stick with the protocols. You're a team member. Let's all pitch in on sacrifice, whatever it is, to get it done so that we can get back by the end of the semester, by the end of the school year. We don't have this stuff. And we can come back and the kids can enjoy the socialization and the action and all that stuff that we can get back to. And during the interim, my frustration is, what are we doing to prepare for when that time comes? I don't want to wait until they give me the green light and say, oh, okay, now we'll get, no, I want to be prepared. So when that green light comes, here, we got that right here, let's go. We've been planning, we're prepping, we're getting ready, and we're building that brand. So Mr. Sparks, the brand at the high school is huge. It's our last opportunity to make an impression. And I know you've had a difficult job as an athletic director, and because I'm an athletic director, I guarantee you, I'm one of the ones that pushing for athletics to be recognized. And I know you've got a hard job to do. And I know you're working hard on it, but there's still a lot to do. And I'm your biggest backer on the board, along with everybody else here. That is one of the key elements of Vasquez. It's one of the things that will draw students to that campus is, wow, I can go there and play. I don't have to sit on the bench. What can we do to get these kids, not to come and just play, come and get a good education, and guess what? You get to play as well. And have those opportunities. So all the seeds that are being planted at High Desert, from transitioning to the high school, and we're picking it up and keeping it moving forward. So I'm putting pressure on. I'm not micromanaging, but I'm pressuring. I'm making sure that Mr. Sahakian is giving all the support that we need at the high school to get the things done that we need to get done so these kids can understand. So I talk to community members, I talk to people, I talk to Dr. Sahakian, I talk to anybody I can. I talk to my nephew who's the VP up in Stockton, and I said, okay, well, we're doing this. And I want to find out, what are you doing that's working that we can bring down here? I'm always looking for something for this school district. So I've been winded along. It's really frustrating in some regards, but it's exceptionally rewarding. I'm so glad that our kids are back in class. And convey to all your colleagues that, please, everybody pitch in, let's do this. I know we're having spiking little COVID incidents at each one of our sites, but we all have to continue to work together. First one, to protect our kids, keep them in the classroom where they can get that quality education. And if they go out knowing that when you go out to quarantine, you're just going out for a few days, and we want you back, and you're going to be right back on track. Thank you for make sure you pass on to all of the ALA members. And Alex, you pass on to Caesar that we are exceptionally proud of the hard work they're doing, and we're going to support them in every way we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I just want to start off by saying, it's so nice to see people. Alex, you're a good-looking guy, but we were the only ones who could look at this stuff. So it's just really nice to, yeah, there he is. So nice to see people. So I appreciate all of you being here and working. I just want to thank a couple people before I make some comments. I mean, Nurse Carrie, holy cow, that is a huge job. So when you see her, please say thank you to her, no matter who you are, and just encourage her to keep going because she's got to be exhausted. And thank you to all of our staff. And you know, keeping our, Ken mentioned it a little bit, but there is a lot to keeping our campuses safe. It's not an easy task. So I don't want people just to kind of envision that the things are the way they used to be. There's a lot of cleaning that's involved. So I want to thank all of our staff for doing that. And usually I do want to thank all of our teachers and all of our classified, but tonight I want to thank our cabinet members too. Because if you look at, when you look at our PAR report tonight, Mrs. Shaw, there is a lot, and thank your staff and thank your secretary for everything, hiring all those instructional aides and getting people in the cafeteria. People are hard to find right now. And to get all of those pushed through, I don't think people realize, if they haven't been on the HR side, how much is involved in that. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Mr. Sparks talked about how he's shorthanded, and that continues to happen until we have all of that going on behind the scenes. So I want to thank you for that, and finding a sped teacher and all of those people. I want to welcome them to our district. And the LCAP being approved quickly and not a lot of, I mean, that is amazing, and I do recognize that, and I don't think the public understands that. So I just want to thank you as well for all of your hard work and your team. So I do want to say that, and happy to get some people in the cafeteria, so we appreciate that. Yes, very well. Some great things. I mean, I really just, sometimes I don't think we recognize that some of our families are needy, so I want to thank the people that brought the backpacks. I think some of us take it for granted that we can buy our children backpacks, but not everybody in the district is fortunate to do that, and our families are changing a little bit, so I want to thank them as well for partnering with us. And so just talking a little bit about branding. I don't like to talk about a lot of my campaign goals when I was running a few years ago, but I had two. The first one was that we would have a strategic plan, and my second one was that we would brand this district. That's what I ran on, because I consider this district a diamond in the rough. And what I mean is, I'm not saying it's not a beautiful sparkling diamond, but because I have visited lots of, I work for a different school district, but I have the pleasure and the privilege of going to many school districts and visiting and walking classrooms. I've been on several campuses, many classrooms in my career over the last several years, and I can tell you that I see so much potential of where this district can go. Not that we're not doing great things, but in education, you're always making improvements. Every day you've got to make things better. It's never done, it's never perfect, it's always making things better. So I say that this district, and people have heard me say this district is a diamond in the rough, because we have, the places you'll go right here on the back of the wall, because we have great potential. I understand that you're frustrated with the block schedule. Sometimes we need to look at things in a bigger picture and realize that it does impact lots of people and there's lots of planning involved. And sometimes taking that little step and taking more time to plan so that you can roll things out, so it's solid and it's good plan for everyone, is an important thing. And I understand in the past you want to just, let's go, but sometimes things take some planning time. We hear what you're saying. We're not against it, but we have things that we have to plan sometimes so we make it right for everybody. And part of that is communication. And communicating to the parents that things are going to change and that maybe some people like it and some people don't. So we have to have time to communicate that. We've talked about communication. And changing a schedule takes a lot of communication. Even though we're a small district, we have to make sure that we're servicing all of our children and making sure that. So we hear what you're saying, and we're not saying we're against lots of food. We're just saying we need time to make sure that. Mr. Sparks, I gave you a compliment last time, so I'm going to give it to you again. I'm sort of sitting here and listening to comments, and people think that I don't have children in this district anymore, but I have history in this district. I know where this district was a few years ago when my grandchildren were in this school district. I can remember playing basketball games with heaters and we were freezing because we were in that tin building. I was from that group. And I honestly get emotional talking about it right now. Walking in that gym for that breakfast was amazing. What you've done to that gym, talking about branding, is amazing. And don't think I didn't realize it. It is not just a gym with some curtains and some chairs. It is beautiful, and I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. And I'm getting emotional because I remember what this district was like a few years ago, and I was a parent that took my, I'm holding his arm, took my lounge chair up the hill because we didn't have bleachers. We had day games. We didn't have night games until a certain, we don't even know how we did it or if it should have happened, but somebody went to Texas, Georgia, to pick up lights. And we had a generator, and we'd get sick because we were inhaling the fumes, and we couldn't hear each other cheer because the generator was so loud. I come from those times. So when I say diamond in the rough and we're always moving things forward, those are the times that I think about. So I want to thank you. That gym is beautiful. And it's not just because we have a new school. You have branded that gym, and you have made it something that we can be proud of and that we can go into that gym and be thankful for all your hard work. I'm sorry you paid for it, but it was money well spent. So with that, I just want to thank you for that. And I will say that children are always first. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it because other things have to happen so that can happen. But children are always in our mind. And I'm going to tell you that I personally have lost sleep over knowing that you have to have a new principal. And I'm sorry for that. But we do with Mr. Brockway well. He does have his family that he needs to consider. Things have happened in his personal life that he feels like he needs to move on. And like Chad was saying, he has that right to do that. And Mr. Brockway, if you're in the audience or hearing me, I wish you well. And I hope that we can, our careers, we can catch up with each other in a professional way later down the road. Wish you nothing but to take care of your family and to have your new position, and wish you nothing but the best. But I will tell Dr. Sahakian that by tomorrow, these teachers need to know what's happening on Monday. So you've heard me give our superintendent directive that by tomorrow, you will know what he's doing. He needs time to plan for that, though. Sometimes it's better just to wait for the information. I know it's frustrating when the plan is in place instead of rumors of could be this, could be that, could be him, could be her that's going to come to that school. We're not leaving that school uncovered. Someone will be there to help with what you've talked about tonight. So make sure he has his answer by tomorrow, please.
Will do.
With that, I think that sometimes we could focus, we need to hear the stuff that's happening, and it's a two-way communication. If the school's not safe, or if you feel like something has to happen, then we need to have that communication this way too. Two-way communication. But this is a great district, and to brand that, I think that we need to sometimes really focus and just appreciate that we have such a great community, people that care about each other, and we all want the same thing. So that's something that we can also be proud of. So with that, we're going to go on to the consent agenda. So can we get a motion to recommend the board of trustees approve consent calendar items?
School counselor to help with social emotional needs of our students for the 21-22 school year. Is it okay for me to even announce the person's name?
We're saving them.
What is
We're on
public?
there.
Yes, so there you go. Tiffany Caseta, wonderful staff member at Vasquez. We are thrilled for you and bringing folks from within and bringing them up. What a wonderful addition to our district, and congratulations. Tiffany, we are here to support you and make sure that you are successful.
And the other one?
And we have a resignation that was listed on the board.
Oh, okay, but
And then the addition of an IA, I want to say, at Meadowlark. And I believe those additions were italicized on the report as
Thank you.
President Jensen, I'd like to pull the resignation of the Vasquez High School principal for a separate vote, please.
I think we have to deny that, Mr. Falsgrove.
You do?
I think so.
All righty then.
All right. Any other comments? Okay, let's call for the vote.
Fallsgraf abstain.
Brianna Texani, aye.
Chad Walker, aye.
Jim Jorgensen.
Kelly Jensen, aye. That's a 4-0.
One, to be clear, I would have voted no on the resignation of Matthew Brockway. Mr. Brockway, that's the best I can do for you, sir.
Okay, then we have 9B. We have the Vasquez High School Parent Student Handbook 2021 through 2022. Am I wrong?
That's good.
You did.
Oh, 9B.
9B, yes. Don't scare me. All right. Can we get something to give a motion here?
Chad will move.
Sorry.
Second. Any comments? Let's call for the vote.
Fallsgraf, aye.
Brianna Texani, aye.
Chad Walker, aye.
Jim Jorgensen.
Kelly Jensen, aye. That's a 5-0 vote. Thank you. And then we have 9C, the High Desert Student Parent Student Handbook 2021 through 22. This is the second read. Can I get someone to move this in? Tim? I'll second. Call for the comments. Let's call for the vote.
Fallsgraf, aye.
Brianna Texani, aye.
Chad Walker, aye.
Jim Jorgensen.
Kelly Jensen, aye. That's a 5-0. Motion carries. 9D, the Meadowlark School Parent Student Handbook 2021 through 2022. Second read for adoption. Can I get someone to move this in?
I'll move.
Chad, second. Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Fallsgraf, aye.
Brianna Texani, aye.
Chad Walker, aye.
Just that our adoption got postponed because of COVID, and so they're finishing up, it should be finished by January for the new textbook adoption, but we
Okay.
still have.
Thank you. Anything else? Then we will close this at 8. Oh, you have a question?
So now, when you said that the textbook adoption has been postponed to January,
They're working on it now, it was postponed because of COVID before,
they be the teachers.
the teachers.
All right, so I know we've had this conversation before, but I want to clarify. Did we come up with clarification on the health textbook at the high school? Because we were figured it was going to be in science or whatever, because that's one that we need to address. Have we gotten to the point where we're going to figure out
Health,
how
we're gonna
that's
bring up
be
in
adopted?
January.
Pardon me?
We're gonna work on health in January.
And that's on the ticket for consideration of adoption? Or we're
We
deciding
don't
what
have
we're
it to
gonna-
adopt in January, we're gonna be looking at textbooks in January.
And
to
that's
look at.
one of the ones that's going to be in the discussion.
And I'll be talking to the textbook companies.
Okay. That's fine. So what, that one's been floating around for a
That's a
couple of
big
years,
one.
so I want to make sure we get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Now that we've opened up that can of worms, health textbooks tend to be nowadays about anything but health, if you follow me. And I am not going to saddle the teachers to teaching kids. I think Mr. Tivo had some comments or apropos here. I'm not here to force what I'm thinking about things unmentionable, even unmentionable to people like me, figure that out. being pushed into the classroom because somebody over here wants that. I'm going to want to make sure that this community understands what's coming through and that they have input and we have a real public hearing, not just, oh yeah, hey, surprise. So if you don't know what textbook adoptions mean in the area of health, I would suggest you find out and take your heart attack pills, because if you haven't looked in a while, there are going to be something you might not want to see. And so something else we want to talk about is when it comes time to economics, the state approves all curriculum. Does that make you feel safe? It certainly doesn't me. So when you're trying to save money, some of the big textbook curriculum publishers, they're not going to alienate all their people throughout the country. Teachers can all of a sudden say, you know what, I don't like that stuff that you put in that book, that I don't feel comfortable. And you got some punk like me in the classroom taking advantage of the situation and chattering and causing a great deal of disruption. I've been there. But it's no time to save money, because you're going to a lesser curriculum provider who barely makes the grade but puts out all this, I don't even know what the word is, for it, shocking curriculum. So he saved $1 and our kids come home asking me questions and I'm going to be like, you need to ask your mom about that. And then I'm on the phone with the superintendent going, what are you doing? So Tim, I support the fact that we need to have kids understand what diseases are and nutrition and how to take care of yourself and not to be smoking Cools and Marlboros, but I'm not going to get into some of this other stuff. So I'll be keyed up on this. You should have this soon or wait till after the next election where I'm not here. That's a hint. Don't campaign if you don't need to. Anyway, I'm done.
So waiting until,
That was a joke, Tim.
I know,
You've
well,
been waiting for 5 years for this. I'm just saying, I don't want to see a bunch of weird stuff telling me how to do this with, I don't want to see it. I don't think the parents in this district
I don't
want to
think
see it.
it
And
would
I don't
never
want to
have that issue
confuse,
with our kids.
I don't want to confuse it. I'm going along like sheep, pushing that along just because somebody wants a new textbook. I think that the reason we don't have a new textbook is that the parents don't want the shock value that comes with the new one. And I'm not going to push this on staff to say, hey, you find this to check the box while we all sit up here and go like this and I can be absent for that board meeting. I'm not counseling you, Tim. I respect you as a teacher, a long-term teacher. But at the same time, I'm not buying into this weirdo crap that's being pushed.
well,
I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but I'm an equal opportunity offender.
well, I just want to clarify, there is nothing in this district in the old textbook that would offend any parent because it is a version that is quite appropriate for our community. The only thing that I'm concerned about is the new science about diseases and COVID and all this stuff is
I got that
absent
part.
from the old
Oh, I got it.
textbook.
I'm
that
with
needs
you
to
on
be
that
brought up to
one. I'm
date.
totally with you on that one.
And if these kids want to be doctors and nurses and health careers, they need to have current information. They don't need to be looking at stuff that's 15 years old.
I'm sure the teachers will be looking at state standards as well. So with that, anybody else have a comment that we can end this at?
I can be not done if you like.
8:59. It's closed by 8:59, thank you. All right, 11A, the Davis demographics presentation. Dr. Sahakian.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. As I shared earlier in the superintendent's report, we have Davis demographics that will join us via Zoom. Mr. Camden Ward, he'll be presenting their services and support to school districts regarding student enrollment and projections. So thank you, Alex, for handling that once again. And nice to see you, Mr. Ward.
Thank you very much. Thank you, members of the board, Superintendent Sahakian. I believe I was going to try to share my screen here. Was I going to do that, or was someone else going to do that for me?
You. Mr. Ward, you have access to share your screen if you don't mind.
Okay, very good.
Wonderful.
So thank you for having us here. Board is looking at doing, or the district is looking at doing a demographic study. Davis Demographics has been doing this type of work for 28 years all across the state of California and even really across the United States now. And one of the things that we have to offer I'm really excited about. I just tried to share my screen. Is that coming through yet?
Yes, it is.
So we take great pride in the fact that we are highly regarded in our field. Our forecasts are very accurate. Our studies are very detailed. Our methodology is sound and true. Something that we have new, I've been with this company for 18 years, and I think this is probably the most exciting thing that I've seen in 18 years. It's called Atlas, and basically what it means is in the past, when you had a demographic study, we get signed on and we begin gathering data and we're going through our whole methodology and all of the steps that we take, typically 10, 12, 14 weeks, whatever it takes, depending on the size of the district. And after you folks wait those 3 months, you finally get a final report in the form, in the past it was always a paper report. Now it's typically PDFs and along with some web maps and things like that. But it basically was a waiting game, and then here's all the information. Now, with the Atlas, we've just unveiled this spring, and we provided a few of these to some select clients of ours, and the response was overwhelming. So when you log into an Atlas, and the district would be given a unique login and password that you can get onto this thing. The first thing you're going to see, it's all customized with your own district name and logo and all that. And the first thing that comes up, because everybody is thinking about this, would be a Copic Dashboard. We became accustomed to seeing these kinds of things. Last year especially, Johns Hopkins University, the whole dashboards. You can see all of the information there. And I know I'm going to go through this quickly, but if you folks would like to take a test drive of this, your superintendent has the link. Please do provide it to them, to your board members, and let them test this out. But the COVID dashboard, we continue on down. Student density maps, we don't want to put actual student information online, so we can do a density map. You can see where your students are in relation to your entire district boundary. So down here, this is the cluster where the students are. Over here, you don't see any because those are mountains. So you see, you see the heat maps basically of where your students reside. Attendance zones, and that's probably not so much applicable to your district. Residential development, if there's that going on. So just a bunch of variety of maps there, more analytics and things going on. And then we can go back up to the top here, and we've got some tabs. So on the project tab, you can see as your project progresses, there's a kickoff meeting, there's data set up, students are mapped, the small planning areas are created, and it just goes through and through the process. And you can always see by which one's highlighted in red, where are we at in that process. If we go all the way down to the bottom, we've got contact information. You never need to know who is it that we need to contact at Davis Demographics. They're right there, phone number, all of the social media. You can schedule a meeting through Calendly. We have an email address, a phone number. You know who your team is. Right here is the way that you folks would send us information. You can provide feedback with a survey. Over into the data, you can upload your data here. You can get information about your data. And then one of the things that you folks are always interested in, we're going to come up with numbers of forecasts. And the question is, how did you come up with those numbers? It's not a secret little box over in the corner with our formula in it. It's out there, so you can read, this is how we do it. This is how we make the pie. These are the ingredients that go in here. There's a flow chart of the methodology. There's the forecasting factors, so there's a discussion about each of the factors that goes on there. And then finally, the results, and there's forecasts, there's capacity numbers. If you folks were a much bigger district, you can click on the map school by school by school by school, and the numbers change dynamically. It's probably not going to be quite so dynamic for your district, but all of it is in there. These are some of the most phenomenal infographics that are available anywhere. It comes from our partnership with the company called ESRI, ESRI, and they are the 800-pound gorilla, the worldwide standard of geographic information system mapping. So if you go to Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County, Orange County, they're using ESRI GIS maps for all of their mapping. And it's not just mapping, it's bringing in census data, it's bringing in community demographics, infographics, maps. Tell me, you know, what is my district made up of? Is it soccer moms? Is it white collar? Is it blue collar? All of that information is in there. Basically, the tapestry of your district is all going to be at your fingertips. We've never been able to offer this to school districts in the past. Last week, we spent 4 days, our entire staff from our office in Riverside, in Phoenix, in Dallas. We were all gathered in our Riverside office training on how to build these. And on Thursday was basically a show and tell where our staff showed off what they had built, and I was blown away. It's phenomenal. This is a game changer in the K-12 demographic industry. You folks are going to be blown away. So you would be getting our standard demographic study, which by itself is sort of the gold standard, but included in with that is the atlas. And I think that by itself is going to be something that you just really would fall in love with. So we would be very, very pleased to work with you folks, provide sort of a plan for your future. We look out 10 years in our forecast. Let's see what's going on the ground, where we see it's coming in the future. That's pretty much all I have, unless you folks have any questions. I know we wanted to keep this brief.
Any questions?
Comments. Today was a wonderful day for me because I sat with my planning commission and then the Public Works Commission and the planning commission presenting a 20-year master plan, which is a structural, financial, and efficiency analysis of my operation I've been at the head of for 20 years. And there's a lot of bells and whistles that comes with these things. But to kind of ground this in something the community will be familiar with, both the Acton Town Council and the Agua Dulce Town Council have been involved with the county, who has been using this technology to, say, for example, show where the soccer fields are, show where the libraries are, show who has a baseball field, where the gym is, where an aquatic center is, and compare that to the economic demographic that's there and what's needed, and then they use Prop A funding and assign those to blocks and areas where you're actually trying to serve the public that's not being served. And so that's kind of the idea behind here. So you're mapping layers of things. What I'm most interested in is this is kind of like, I don't have a better way to say it. Sometimes government managers have a tendency to say it's not my fault because we're losing ADA. And so that's all I can do. I think this has the ability to take a look at not only where your students are, but what their economic situation is, while you're still protecting their identity and dignity, and then you would be able to not only estimate what the number of students you're servicing are, but how many of them may be what's historically your Title I students, the ones that would, based on the area that they live in, the housing that's there, to say we're going to likely to have to do some early intervention services when kids come in at 3 years old to preschool, special day class. We're also able to take a look at the kids that are coming in from somewhere else, like Anna Verde and things like that, and what percentage of those we need to have more than 2 standing here tonight. And is it my understanding, sir, that you're going to be able to show me demographics that can predict what type of services we will need to stay relevant in the marketplace long-term?
Esri is the largest clearinghouse of demographic information in the world. They're one of the most esteemed. And so basically, if it's in there, then yes, there's population estimates and things. But the exciting thing is that in about 3-4 weeks from now, the brand new census data is going to be out as well. And so we're going to have a wealth of information dumped on us the first week of October that will tell us a lot about your district. Yes.
Good, Eric. So maybe I can clarify for this, because it will be your recommendation to hire these people. Is that correct?
For continuous improvement, yes.
Okay. So what I've been tired, I used to see this when I sat out in the audience. We're projecting enrollment next year is going to be 600. Oh, it's 900. Hey, we did great, right? So we purposely lowball the number to make it look like we did good when actually we're failing. That was very impressive to me. Wrong. So what I'm getting at here is when the study comes out, the questions I asked tonight, you can expect that I will ask for that data when the study is released. And I hope I will feel good about voting yes at that point.
I like to use the analogy that with this Atlas tool, it's kind of like in the past, there's been a wall to where the kitchen is, you're in the restaurant, and there's a wall, you can't see what's being cooked. We just installed a window. So you're going to be able to see everything we're doing. You know, if we're licking your cheeseburger or dropping your soup on the floor or whatever, you're going to be able to see all that. You're going to see the entire project from start to finish.
Thank you
so
for
there's
sharing.
nothing to hide.
Thank you for sharing that part. I hope you won't turn me into the county for having too many chickens on my property, which is not on Red Road or Mine Road. Thank you. Brianna, go ahead.
My question, I don't even know if this is the appropriate time to ask it. My question would be real time. Like we can say it can do this and it can do that. I want a real scenario of this is a piece of information. I know I don't need the big picture. This is a piece of information that we're going to pull. This exact person at our district is the one that's going to look for it, and this is what they're going to do with it. So I want not what can it do broad spectrum. I want to know what exactly somebody at our district is going to do with a piece of information that this is going to give us.
Sure, and thank you, Ms. Taxani, for that. So, you know, having worked with Davis demographics in the past and having the old school reports and the Excel spreadsheets and so forth, so on that Mr. Ward alluded to earlier, you know, it helps, you know, with the projections to help with staffing projections. It helps when you are looking to provide services for differentiated instruction, interventions of the population of students being served currently and projected populations out.
So just right there, the differentiated instruction and all that. So walk me through that. Who's going to pull that and who's going to make that decision based off of whatever information? Is there a plan within the district to use the information we get?
So one example would be when we're looking at, if we're looking at 2 years out and we're seeing that there is attrition with students, when we're planning for staffing ratios and trying to right-size the district, we have the data at our fingertips. So internal teams working here at district office, working with the site administrators to say, this is the impact that we are seeing. Based on this information and this data, we are looking at staffing ratios. Based on this data, it could even impact what we're given in terms of LCAP. And then how are we planning proactively for LCAP? So all this information then trickles back down to individual administrators here at district office, those that are planning and staffing, let's say with the master schedule at the school sites. So it does trickle down to district office as well as school sites, the information that we receive from formal demographics.
Maybe I can help.
Sure.
Pretend that you never saw this before. Pretend that you've never worked for a successful school district. Pretend that it's your first day of being a teacher. Pretend that you've not, because it's pretty obvious you've used this in the past. Pretend that you've never seen all that and turn your television on 20 years ago and tell me what it looks like, because that's what you're dealing with here. I think the detach is you're used to these kinds of tools to inform not only how many kids you're going to have in the school, but what more likely they're like, what their makeup will be, what their demographic will be, and where your bleed off is demographically and economically. Am I wrong?
So to piggyback on that, right? So if I'm a classroom teacher, seeing this for the first time, well, if I'm working to differentiate for, let's say, my English language learners, and it's really kind of forecasting the population of students that I'll be serving as a classroom teacher per se at a school site, and knowing how I'm supposed to be preparing because I'm going to get an influx of English language learners. This helps to kind of narrow the perspective down, and it does really trickle back down to the classroom as well. So it's impactful throughout the district.
I'll keep it short. Numbers and data, I like it, bring it on. I think it's a good idea. So we know where we're going.
So I have a couple of questions that I think that our presenter can answer. So currently, the basic source of data about where the students are in our district boundary is provided by what? Is that from the census 8 years ago?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Your the base of your students who are enrolled in your schools comes from your student information system. That has nothing to do with census data whatsoever. It's what's in your student information system. I believe it's Aries. So whether they live in your district, whether they live outside of your district, if they're enrolled in your schools, then they're in your system, and that's the basis of where we begin to build our formula for forecasting out 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. It's not census, it's not population estimates, it's your own students. It's from the ground up, not from the top down, which is a way that a lot of demographers do it. We don't do it that way. We want to start from the bottom up using your own student data.
Tim, I'm the one that, hang on, I'm the one that can answer this. I've been up here longer, and I don't see any administrators that have been here longer than I've been on the board. The problem we've got here is they're using historic regression, meaning if I have 36,000, 80,000, blah, 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 5 years of tree emergency in Beverly Hills, what I do is I just average those off and do a projection that I'm going to need $42,000. That's the way it's been done here. And I've also seen people lowballing it to make it look like, oh, we had more kids. So what he's trying to tell you is he can't answer the question because he's not been using a derelict roll dice game that we've been using in the past, which is probably why the superintendent doesn't want to play the derelict dice game anymore and wants to program what we're doing based on what we're likely to come in and then plan. This is not a doomsday tool. It's like a let's get good at servicing what's out there. Sorry, but that's reality.
Okay, so we know that we have our X number of students for our areas that are in our district. And then as this thing, that you mentioned something that a gold mine was going to come in when the new census come in. What impact does that have? Is that new people, new students moving into the district? How do we know? What's the...
So when you have a new industry or something like that coming into a school district, I've heard everything, copper mines, Toyota's building a plant, whatever, and people start scattering and freaking out and stuff. What we want to do is wait and see what's the impact next year on student enrollment. What's the impact the year after that? If there's people coming into your district, you're going to see that in your schools. But a lot of times it's not the impact that folks believe it is. We see these high-rise condo buildings all over the San Francisco Bay Area, and the school districts we work with there are like, oh my gosh, we're going to have hundreds, maybe thousands of students. No, you got 5 out of that entire building, because those are not the type of people that live there as young families. Those are single people and double income, no kids, and that sort of thing. So we want to take the reality of who is in the schools, the students, and then we're going to add our modifying factors, our birth rates, so we can establish who are the kindergartners coming in, our in-out migration, our mobility, our residential development. We don't just apply a simple cohort, you know, we grew by 1%, let's just apply that across the board. We use a modified cohort that takes into account a number of things. So our methodology has been honed and refined for 28 years. It really works well. We don't aim for the broadside of a barn. We aim for a bullseye. And if we miss it just a little bit, that's still pretty darn good. If we miss the broadside of a barn, you know, we're not worth our salt at all.
Okay, so the one concern I have, Dr. Saki, is that I heard you talking about, well, it's going to say, well, we're going to have this influx of EL students. Well, we already know they're here, so there's not an influx because they're here. So all of this high rise and these big housing tracts and all of these markers that you've have the experience of dealing with don't exist here. And so that's going to be the shock value for you, that they're going to come out here and say, where's the high rise? Well, there isn't. Well, where's this? Well, there isn't. So I'm perplexed a little bit. I understand that it's important to have information and data, but I don't want to shoot so far over there that, okay, I'm still in the fog about how this is going to impact. If we're using what we currently have as a source, which we know, how does that change? I mean, how do the numbers change from one semester, 6 months down the road, next year, without having input from someplace else? I don't know where that input's coming from.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jorgensen. And when Mr. Ward and I and his team and our team, Cabinet and myself, met virtually just to go over the program and get an overview, you know, it was discussed. We're a very unique district, right? We don't have these grand developments that are taking place, but there are specific demographics in terms of the methodology that Mr. Ward mentioned, right? There was, you know, example of, you know, birth rates. What are our birth rates? You know, would there be an influx to our TK kinder programs? I don't know. So, I mean, that's just one example. So there are some elements that I believe, and Mr. Ward, I'm paraphrasing from my recollection at our initial meeting, that we're a unique district. It's not a large district, so when it comes to, let's say, identifying different school sites and so forth, so on for demographic studies, it might be very limited when it comes to Acton Agua Dulce, because we are a small community. But there are some other elements, like the example that you brought up of birth rates, as we're planning to see, is there an influx into our, you know, early primary grades. So that's just one example. If you want to elaborate, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's well stated.
Okay, so you mean to tell me I need to go down to my new neighbor that has an infant, a 2-year-old, and tell me, hey, make sure they're on the 10. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, it's very minimal. I mean, I'm just like.
But that's one example. That's one example.
Yeah, right.
I'll give you another example. Ready?
No.
They can put my tree data from where I work on a layer on this, and I can tell you that anybody who has a tree in their front yard, like the one in my arm, you want them in this district. So I can go pirate your school district, Kelly. He's not telling you that part. I can zoom in on that. I want to mark it right there. So charters do it.
Okay, so this has to do with helping us brand and prepare, right? So we get information, like Ken just tapped it.
I didn't say that. He didn't say that.
20 miles this way, oh my God, there's like 400 kids, let's go get them. I mean, you know.
Yeah, they were ours to begin with.
They were ours, let's get them back here, you know, somehow, I don't know. It's just like, you got the right idea to put that little billboard up there.
I believe that our expertise helps with planning, and then the branding and marketing has a larger reach.
Is this a tool in branding and marketing?
No.
Okay, I'll show you how then. Fine.
Okay. But there's a connection.
Oh, there is. Imagine that.
Well, I think our presenter has some good analogies that are targeted to Mr. Falsgraf. That's interesting, some of the comments that he made.
Well, he's a salesman, so am I. We have something in common.
I just have a quick question. Is this a yearly contract? How long? When you bring this to the board, what is it going to be? Is this something we have to pay for yearly? Is it
Thank you.
2, 3 years? What is it?
Quota has come up with 200 students by the end of the year.
Thank you for that question, and we discussed this. You know, many times there are there's a long-term contract with larger districts, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ward, but we talked about, given our size, it might be a one-shot deal for Acton Agua Dulce with a one-time contract if we do move forward, because there isn't all these other elements that Mr. Jorgensen even brought up, with all due respect. So it could be a one-time report, but that'll give us that bird's eye view for the next 5 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Ward. That was the discussion that we had. That will be a one-time cost and not an ongoing cost.
Correct.
They
Yes,
could be the seed for our future.
we have multi-year contracts with many of our clients, but you folks would definitely be on the smaller side of school district size that we work with. So, yeah, we did just discuss a one-year contract. This would be completed probably in 3 to 4 months, and then the Atlas would stay up there active through the remainder of the school year, giving you full access to through June.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Ward.
Thank you, folks.
And we're on to 11B, the 2020-2021 unaudited actuals. Dr. Sahaki. Oh, we have to motion.
Move.
Okay, Chad second. Now.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen. So I'm going to turn it over to our soon-to-be Dr. Mirza.
Yeah, not yet.
Yeah, soon to be.
Don't have it.
Really?
Sooner than later.
Yeah,
My leg hurts.
I stubbed my
Not that type
toe.
of doctor.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me tonight, board members. It's nice to see you guys in public. And tonight we'll be going over the 2020-2021 unaudited actuals to see how Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District did for the previous school year. So when we're talking about unaudited actuals, I know we're working currently in the fiscal year of 21-22, but we're actually still discussing the previous fiscal year. So the business department, Alex, is this working? Yes, it is. You can go to the next slide.
Sometimes saving money on those advances
Exactly right.
doesn't work out.
I can see it here. You're welcome.
Try it. Yeah. No, just
Turn it on the side.
it's on.
Go like
It's
this.
on. You shake it. Yeah, just go to the next slide. It's fine. Yeah.
We're still trying to get the slideshow to work.
Okay, so this gives you a timeline of where we were and where we are right now. We're all the way towards the second to last slide, unaudited actuals right now, it's September 21. So if we backtrack a little, back in June, I presented to you guys a 21-22 budget, and part of that budget was what was called the estimated actuals. And what the estimated actuals were is a projection of where we thought we would end up for the fiscal year of 2020-21. We didn't have the full actuals. So now, the unaudited actuals, all the books are closed, all the financial transactions are done, and so we're going to give you the actual results of where we stand financially. And so then the next step would be December. You'll hear from our independent auditor, which will talk about the validity and the compliance factor of our 2021 year budget. And at the same time, we're working in at 21-22 and always planning for the future year. So we're constantly working in like 3 different years all at once. So yeah, next slide please. So what has changed since then? All the books have been closed. All year-end closing entries are prepared and closed. Any unspent allocations have been identified and reserved or assigned to the fund balance as appropriate. And so right now, like I mentioned, we're going to be comparing
the unaudited actuals to the estimated actual that's presented in 21-22 budget. So why would projections be different than expected? So at Acton, we always project conservatively but based on revenues and expenses. You could have received revenues that was not anticipated, expenditure allocations or budgets that were not completely used. Purchase orders received, so if you put in an order for the previous fiscal year before June 30th, but the items were not received until after the fiscal year is over, that's another reason why projections can be different. So we're going to talk tonight, we're going to go straight into the revenues, then we'll go into the contributions, then we'll talk about the expenses, the impact on the general end fund balance, and that would be it. So the LCFF, if you look at the difference column just at the end, the $25,000, we did pretty good. I mean, I'll go get into why there's differences and variances in each item. So $25,000 increase from what we said we were going to do at the estimated actuals. Federal revenue decreased about $667,000. There's nothing to be alarmed about that. We'll get into that on the next slide. Other state revenue, we saw an increase of $190,000, and local revenue, we saw an increase of $443,000. So why this happened? Our LCFF revenue saw an increase of $25,000 due to our final LCAP and revised P2 funding. Our federal revenue decrease that you saw of $664,000 with the categorical programs, how they normally work throughout when you're closing the year, is that you have to make sure the revenues and expenses balance, so you can't close those programs with any carryover amounts or any unused amounts. So what we do is move those. That's why it looks like such a huge decrease. It's really the Title I, Title II, Title III, and all the pockets of COVID money that we got. Anything that was unused, we have to remove that and close the year out. And then the first interim time, you're going to see an influx in federal revenue because we're going to add all that carryover back. And so state revenue increased about $190,000, and that was based on state funds like gear. We got some state COVID pocket of money, those were the final allocations, and lottery revenue there's a difference in there. Local revenues, which comprises of our charter revenue, any interest, any miscellaneous revenue that comes in and out, like Medi-Cal reimbursements, that saw an increase for about $443,000, and that was due to we received, the majority of that was due to the charter school. So I-Lead charter revenue was deposited. We actually received the money in time to deposit and close out the fiscal year. And then we received about $109,000 from LACO. They deposited, I guess they didn't know what to do with the funds, so they said we were in charge of Inspire at the time. So they deposited that into our account. And so we're under pending investigation to figure out where does this money go, because they can't figure it out. So they just sent it over to us. Contributions. So when we talk about contributions, what a contribution is there's any, so you have the general fund, and then you have other programs such as special ed, routine maintenance, transportation accounts. So a contribution would be moving funds from the general ed to support programs that can't cover their costs because maybe the funding is not enough. And so that's actually removing money out of your general fund to cover other programs. So we saved quite a bit of money on this. So this is actually a positive thing for our ending fund balance. We contributed $1.1 million less out of the general fund than was budgeted. Transportation was the second, third and fourth accounts there. Transportation, sped transportation, and netted a savings of about $112,000. Our special ed program was the major factor. We contributed approximately $1 million less than what we budgeted due to we got additional special ed funding, P2 funding model increase, and we've got the SELPA final numbers after OFY, which was a big charter that was part of our SELPA. They left, and so we didn't realize the impact it would have until we got the information from our SELPA. So it was a combination of factors, but that played a huge swing positively in our favor that increased our ending fund balance about $1 million. And then you see routine maintenance was, it caused a decrease. because we budgeted, every year you have to do 3% of your total expenditures to your routine maintenance account. So we budgeted it at $580,000, but our expenses came in higher. So in order to meet that 3% minimum, we had to deposit an additional $40,000. So that actually caused a decrease. So that's your contributions. If you go to the next slide, Alex. So then let's talk about your expenditures. And this is unrestricted expenditures. So unrestricted compared to restricted, unrestricted is what impacts your ending fund balance. Restricted dollars is all categorical money. So on the unrestricted side, we did pretty good as far as projecting the certificated salaries. I mean, we were off by about $16,000, but you know, speaking comparatively, it's not too far off. Our classified salaries, employee benefits, you saw a savings. So our expenditures came in about $117,000 less, and our employee benefits normally follow, you know, your wages, so your salaries. Your books and supplies came in about $192,000 lower than, we reduced our expenses by $192,000. Services and operations, that is all of our legal, our contracted services, consultants. We decreased expenditures about $404,000. And so we saw a net savings in our expenditure side of about $778,000. So we were able to manage and control our expenses. But we got to put this into perspective because we did also get a lot of COVID dollars, and we were able to shift a lot of the money out from the general fund and utilize our one-time COVID funding. So that's, I think I actually touched on this. Yeah, we decreased the general fund. Come back on the side, please. Yeah. So yeah, classified salaries came to about $37,000 of savings due to instructional aid vacancies. $67,000 of the savings in the classified salaries was due to pupil support, mainly due to the vacancies in transportation and the security. $24,000 of savings was the savings between the time gap between Lynn and David, my previous CDO, and myself. And then the benefits, like we discussed, just kind of follow that track. Supplies and materials was pretty much due to shifting to COVID. Anything that we could have, we tried to shift to COVID expenditures. And then overall contracted services, a lot of that was, we saved $140,000 in savings in our utilities. $112,000 savings was due to utilizing COVID funding for internet hotspots, phones. We were able to fund it from there. And then just decreasing overall costs. Either the legal expenses came in lower, the consulting expenses just came in lower. Our impact on the general fund overall, we saw a $2 million increase, $2.1 million increase on our general fund balance. So that's good. But we also received about $2.some million for COVID funding as well. So it kind of makes sense. Next slide. So the ending fund balance now is about $12,477,000, which is comprised of these different categories. You have $1,000 that's non-revolving cash account. Committed restricted funds is basically our routine maintenance account that we're committed to depositing those funds. Other assignments could be negotiations and other things that we have earmarked dollars for. And then the reserve for economic uncertainty is about $11,411,000. So what that means is right now our reserve is sitting at 74%. Which meets and exceeds our 4% reserve requirement for any unforeseen expenses. But if we put this in perspective, 4% only equates to about $600,000, and our average payroll is $1.1 million. So if we ever ran into trouble with the state, we had cash flow issues, or they stopped sending us money, you're not going to be able to meet 1 month of payroll. So with 74%, at least you'll be able to make 10 months. Okay. And so now this is just a brief look at our other funds. Our Fund 8, this is the first time, this is a new fund that we had to keep track of this year, that we had to put all of our ASB expenditures and revenues. So we had to go back, look at their bank statements and their expenses for the year and see if they were tracking everything correctly. Now the audit will say They will check for the compliance factor of it. So the ending fund balance in ASB fund as of June 30th, that comprised of everything was about $129,946. Our child nutrition fund was about $110,000. So they're all healthy ending fund balances. Deferred maintenance, you had $130,000 that you could spend on facilities. You had little pockets of money in Fund 17 and Fund 35, $3,000, $8,500 respectively. And those are also for facilities. You have $435,000 in your capital facility fund. Fund 40, you have $500,000, and then Fund 49 is your CFD attorneys. So the Community Facilities District is still in the early stages, and they're still working it out with the developer to see if they're going to actually go through with the project. But that money came from that developer to pay for the attorney costs. So that's what we're utilizing that for. Okay. And so that's pretty much it. I mean, you saw an ending fund balance increase of $2.1 million. Several components where, revenues came in higher than expected. You had contributions that were a lot less than was expected, and then effective monitoring and controlling of services and expenses. So it's recommended that hopefully you guys approve this report tonight. If you guys have any questions.
Ready?
Yes.
Mr. Marza, would you say that some of these issues predated you coming to work for the district? Would it be accurate to say that the finances as run by Lynn David were conservative enough to leave you in a nice place when you started here?
Yes.
Good. I want the public to understand this. General funds are basically tax-based, realistic tax-based. So if you were to have a carryover in a general fund year after year after year, you're not supposed to be in this for business to build reserve, cash reserve. I'll talk about the charters in a minute. Did you guys leave any money laying in general funds that cannot be moved forward? No. In other words, we just forgot to do the roof and I left $400,000 in that account, we left it. Good. So there's no carryovers. Did they allow you to do any general fund carryovers that, because of COVID, maybe you couldn't have spent the money? Did they allow you to make any to apply for any carryover amounts?
No.
Okay, so there is no carryover in general fund stuff. If there were a bond or there were capital improvement project funds, then you would move those forward until the project was completed, and you would have a bond oversight committee looking at that. Did you carry forward any debts that could affect the district's bond or credit rating?
No.
You know what I'm talking about.
We paid off our capital facilities fund, so that was
okay.
Yes. And then we have our long-term debt, which we have on our books, is our GEO bond from previous.
So what I'm getting at here, you didn't carry over any court-ordered payments and kick the can down the road that would affect, because those things tend to affect your credit rating and how the district's finances are seen, especially by LACO, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When it comes to charter revenue, do you have anything in here that shows $1 of projected revenue from any of your charters?
No.
Imagine that. Did you underestimate the amount that it could actually cost you? So there's a padding in there that says if that charter doesn't do this, I've got a little bit of padding. I'm not going right to 100%.
No.
Good. Tell me, is SPED funding a drawdown on the general fund typically?
Normally, yes. I mean, experience that I have, the award amount for special education is always underfunded. So they give you like.
Would you say the business of SPED is risky?
It's risky. I don't know if it's risky.
Well, I mean, if you have, let's say,
underfunded, I could say that.
So if it's underfunded, you could have a situation where parents that know it's underfunded could potentially take advantage of that and be asking for things that they know you can't do. I have the luxury of probably having the lowest cognitive child in the district right now, so I can talk about this. So if I know the district's capacities, and then I come back and sue you, maybe your curriculum isn't right, maybe I didn't get orange juice the third time that morning at 12:17. and I sue the district, and the attorney just goes, you need to settle this one because you're kind of in trouble, where does that money come from?
It comes from the general fund eventually, yeah.
And where does the money come for attorneys for that?
All out of the.
Where does the money come from for charter lawsuits?
All out of the.
Would you care to flip back to your legal expenses from this
Yes.
past, from what we're talking about here?
Can you go back? Keep going. No, go back. One more. Yeah, services and other operating expenses. So that decrease in 404,000.
400,000.
Yeah.
Is that the, could you be taking lawsuits out of there? Where would they show up in the settlements?
Right there. Services and.
I bet you the lawyers aren't very happy with you, sir. What else do we have here? That's it. That's what I do. That's why I'm here.
I just want to congratulate you on getting all of that together. I know that's not easy. I watched my mom do what you do, and it was late nights, long hours, very late nights, where I would come and bring her dinner and then come and walk her home, or walk her out at 11, 12 o'clock at night. So I know that this is not just easy to put together, so good job. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Brianna, let me interrupt you. To your mother's service, it was particularly hard if she's coming up with numbers that are real and someone is coming along and saying, change it to that. Tell your mother I said hello and make sure that she's doing well.
I will. Mom, he says hello.
Her mother doesn't talk to me, so I had to do it that way.
I have nothing to add. Thank you for your work together and all your work in the district. Appreciate it.
I have one clarification on that new column where you put up the ASB on the left-hand side.
Yes.
Because we did have an issue with ASB a couple of years ago before you got here. Now we got to clarify. So that number is, ASB is kind of like the bank from the school. That's a compilation of all the different organizations, class, schools, boards, and all that
Yes,
stuff.
it's a
Adds that total. ASB has one little bit of that that's theirs. Because I know we've had a conversation and there's been concern about everybody's being trained so we don't get into this backlog. So I'm glad to see that we've got that. I like seeing the report. I want to compliment you on bringing something forward that is understandable to lay people who didn't score well in math. I can see it, I understand it. And your presentation is good, Dr. Okay, so with that.
It's too early to say doctor.
Oh, okay. Thank you for your hard work.
Doctor, the budget's still hemorrhaging.
It's getting way too late.
It is.
I do bad when people are.
Hey, great job. It was really easy to understand. And it's just so nice to not see that it's weedy, right? So I really appreciate that. Just a quick question on the books and supplies, because I know we got extra funding for things with COVID money and all that stuff, but with the 192,000, is that because we didn't do a textbook adoption also? Do we have money?
Well, estimated
down the road?
actuals, we already realized that by the end of the year, it's not going to take place, or the expense wouldn't hit. So we
Right.
removed it out of the budget. But yeah, we budgeted normally about $700,000 for the
Just because we
textbook
had
adoption.
conversation
Yeah.
here tonight about textbooks and things, so when I see that, I
So it is in our,
Sure that we-
it is in our 21-22 budget. We did
have enough,
budget.
have enough money to do that. All right,
Kelly,
yes.
sorry, but that's an example where everybody might not connect the dots. If you hadn't brought up to us that we hadn't made the textbook adoption and therefore moved the money forward for that we had budgeted for that, and that's not approved by the board, or at least we're informed that way, then you can't really, if LACO comes back and say, why didn't you do this? You can say, well, because of the COVID extension and this, and so therefore there's an action item that says this is why we moved it into next year, despite Mr. Fallsgraff's weird comments about health textbooks.
Well, we've also heard for a little while now how we didn't have money for textbooks, how that was a concern, so I want to make sure that we agree.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we weren't able to afford it, but we would have to do it regardless.
Yes,
That's a
There is a
requirement.
bill coming up in a few short
Yeah.
years, yes. So there will be a amount adoption, in 2 years.
So I'll confirm Mr. Vasquez's appointment with you later.
So thank you, that was a great presentation,
Very good.
clean, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Can I
much.
say one more thing?
Sure.
I know Miss David does jump on from time to time. I just want to say that that is a lot of her hard work too. So I attributed
Yes.
that hard work to you and thank you. I also want to send that thank you out to Lynn David. She was on the ball, so thank you.
Is she on tonight, Alex? Can you tell
Yes,
us?
yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you,
Lynn.
thank you, Lynn.
Lynn David invented copper wire by pulling on a penny.
We do appreciate her. She kept us out of trouble, yes, for sure. So, Lynn, if you're out there, you are out there, so thank you very much. Okay, so let's
Thank
call
you.
for the vote.
Falls Graph, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Chad Wadsworth, aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye, that's 5-0, motion carries. Thank you. 11C, the resolution 2021-22.03, adopting the GAN limit 2020 through 2021 fiscal year. Phew. Okay, can I get a motion?
Second.
Okay.
So I'll defer again to our wonderful Dr. Mirza.
Doctor's back.
You're making them nervous.
Yeah, this is just a
That's okay,
requirement,
it's
this is a
fine.
requirement that we have to do every year. It's each district, we have to report to the superintendent of public instruction on our appropriations for our state aid.
Okay, any questions or comments? Ken, do you have anything?
Is this for Gammon for the sports field?
No.
Perfect, no question.
All right. Okay, call for the vote.
Falls Graph, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Chad Wadsworth, aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye, 5-0, motion carries. We have 11D, the developer fee refund. It's recommended that we refund Steve Kirk, the developer fee. I'm so happy.
Yeah,
Oh, let's make a motion, sorry.
Move.
Tim, sorry.
Chad second.
Yeah.
sure, Ms. Johnson, no worries. A fee refund request came into the business office, business services to Mr. Mirza and team. And this is a
2006.
payment that came in 2006, and they're claiming for it now. And so, having
Yeah,
cross-reference with Mr. Mirza, it's on the agenda for a fee refund back to the developer.
They thought they would get the project off. We verified the receipts, checked with our records, didn't have an explanation of why it took them so long to come get the money, but, you know, everything checked out, so it's just a refund.
So they didn't do the development.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jackie Air. Falls Graph, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Chad Wadsworth, aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye, 5-0, motion carries. We have 11E, the Alco building solution. Can I get someone to move this in?
Second.
To start assessment of our sites for the condition of our HVAC systems. Mr. Mirza?
Okay, so this is a grant application that's out for our facilities for plumbing and HVAC services. And so we don't qualify for the round one because it's based on our unduplicated count, but we had a conversation with several companies, and so we will qualify for round two funding. And so this just authorizes them to start their, groundwork, start going through finding vendors, so that way, it's all contingent upon funding. So if we don't get any funding, there's no money out. So that way they're prepared and ready to go when we do receive the funding for it.
Questions, comments?
Is this cost neutral to the district?
Yes.
Thank you.
Call for the vote.
Falls Graph, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Chad Wadsworth, aye.
Tim Jorgensen, aye.
Kelly Jensen, aye, 5-0, motion carries. Okay, future agenda items. 12A, we have a tentative date for October 27th of possibly having a board study session on the Brown Act. We have some more information on that.
Correct. That information will be forthcoming, and we'll confirm October 27th.